I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
Yeah. There's no mercy in this world, just hunger-thirsty persons in different versions. Each new update, that shit worsens. Why? Pull back the curtain and you'll see the different vermin. We all have different burdens that all seem to cause disturbance. Yo, so do me a favor, don't treat me like a neighbor. Don't need the different flavors of your problems just to savor. I've got my own issues, I need a comb to get through. Don't need to groan with you, just go get your own tissue.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
That's it, the end of the song. Next time you'll sing along. Trust me, there's nothing wrong. I just need to carry on, cause society's a myth put there to make you sit. Listen to what they give. Don't ask questions, shut your lid. Yeah, don't ask questions, shut your lid. I need to run away from this and go get off the grid. Feel like my brain is overloaded, man, I'm losing it. Don't let them tell you what to do, man, they don't know shit.
Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joe Pisapia, and it's Super Bowl Sunday. So we're going live with all of your questions and the best bets right here at Betting Pros. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel, because when you do, you get free stuff. Because if you are a subscriber and you leave a comment below on this very video, we could upgrade you for free at bettingpros.com to Betting Pros Premium. So whether you're looking for access to exclusive picks, top-rated player props, or custom analysis for your betting performance, Betting Pros Premium has all the tools to help you cash more bets. That's what it's about, baby. So check it out at bettingpros.com/upgrade. And like I said, subscribe here to our live stream and make a little comment below, and you could win that upgrade for free. But it's not about free. It's about making money here today. And, you know, in the grocery store this time of year, there's a lot of deals, 2 for 1 because of Super Bowl Sunday. At my grocery store, it was 2 for 1 on mats. So I got 2 of them here. I bought one, got one free. Matthew Freedman joins us as always. And Matt Perrault is back, the host of the Daily Juice. Great to see him here as well. Matthew Perrault, it's the first time you and I get to work together. How disappointed are you that you ended up getting me today as this host for the show?
Well, this should be fun. I'm excited to get into this, some of these games, some of these props, and some of these markets here. It's been an interesting morning in the betting world so far. We got a lot to talk about. I've actually never done a show with Freedman. He's been on my radio show and I think on my other show too, but I've never actually worked with the boss. So this is a first. Well, you're with me with Freedman also was a first.
My goodness, all the worlds colliding, coming together. Matthew Freedman, a lot of pressure here, a lot of new pieces, but to me, that's opportunity. Speaking of opportunity, what's on the menu today at Freedman's house? I want to know.
Well, I've already had brunch. That was the main thing on the menu. But I like to double dip with the wake up early, have some brunch, get a little nap, do this, restock, and then, have buffalo wings and stuff like that for the actual Super Bowl.
There you go. There you go. That's the plan, everybody. Brunch and nap. So hopefully you got that in. You squeeze us in here in between. Now, before we get to the best bets here from Freedman and Matt Perrault, make sure you drop all your questions or comments down in the chat, and we'll try to bring up some of them towards the end of the show. But first, I want to talk about the line and where it stands right now. The consensus over at bettingpros.com, we have still the Eagles -1.5 right now. They are still the favorites in this game. I know Freedman's still kind of salty about that. I can't wait to hear him. 50.5 was the number. The consensus now is 51. You can still get 51 at DraftKings, still get 51, it looks like, at Caesars, as well as Sugar House and Bet Rivers. So a few 51 still floating around, very close. And you've got even money now on the Chiefs money line. So Freedman, let's start with you on this one. When we've been evaluating this game, we were waiting to see if any more movement happened. A lot of money had come in on the Eagles. Do you think here in the hours ahead, this number is going to change at all?
I doubt it. I mean, we might see like a 0.5 point movement, something like that. But Superbook, Westgate Superbook, did test Pick'em yesterday, and they took enough Eagles money to move this back to -1 on the Eagles. So I think, we saw a bigger book test, moving towards the Chiefs, and the market moved them back. So I don't think we're going to see any more movement unless it's just a ton of Chiefs money coming in. And I just kind of don't think we're there. But that said, a lot of sharper bettors that I've talked to are on the Chiefs. Like Billy Walters, like maybe sharpest better ever. He said he's surprised. It's sort of like two-way thinking process that he has. He's surprised that this isn't Eagles -3, and he still likes the Chiefs. So, I think even sharp bettors are kind of seeing some sort of divergence in the market between thinking where the market should move or is likely to move and how they see this game playing out. So I still have this projected at Chiefs -1.5. I feel pretty comfortable with that, but we're all in that general pick'em range. It wouldn't be a surprise to see the Eagles win this game. I mean, they certainly are a good team, but I don't know. I think if I had to pick one of these teams to blow out the other one, I would be more surprised by the Eagles blowing out the Chiefs than I would be by the Chiefs blowing out the Eagles.
All right, Perrault, I see you nodding your head in agreement. Now, I've been on the Chiefs too, but I don't feel like there's a lot of, you're just nodding your head. Maybe you're just waiting. Oh, he's nodding his head in the other direction. He's
disagrees.
Curveball. Okay, nod twice if you're in trouble and you have to be let out of your house. So talk to me here. What are your thoughts on this game? Because you have a different angle then.
Yeah, okay, look, there's a couple things you got to look at. With the pro betting angle is a fascinating angle because the Chiefs opened up in Vegas -2.5. The money poured on the Eagles. All the pro money coming. The public doesn't bet 2 weeks out from the Super Bowl. So it was all pro money that came in to drive it all the way to -2.5. So most pros that I've talked to, that we're talking, are on both sides. They're on 2.5. So they don't care who wins. They're trying to land this thing in the middle. So it's difficult to look at this from a pro angle and say, what do the pros want? Now, the limits obviously open up later we go into the week. Friday last week, limits generally opened up. Vegas dropped to 1. Like Matt said, we saw other books here in Vegas test out to see what happens when it went to 1. Well, we're not going to go to a 0.5 point, so let's go right to pick, see what happens. And then the pros came right back with a pick 'em on the Eagles. I don't think we have a general feel for what the professionals want and what they're going to need or what the books are going to need. It's the Super Bowl. There's so much money. There's so much liquidity in the market that it's basically just like bet what you think is going to happen. And I'm on the other side. If the Chiefs blow the Eagles out, that'll stun me. I don't think the Eagles are going to get killed here. I think the Eagles blowing the Chiefs out is far more likely to happen simply because of the injuries on that offense. And I don't like this KC defense. And if they can't stop the run, it opens up the entire playbook for this Eagles team. They have the best offensive line. Everyone's going through this. Now, I was on Radio Row for the last 5 days. I heard it from everyone. Strength of schedule, the type of quarterbacks the Eagles played. When you're beating the snot out of teams, I don't care who you're playing. You're winning 31-7 type of football games. They're not squeaking by bad quarterbacks. They're killing bad football teams right now. I just think this is a football game where you have a shiny toy in Patrick Mahomes and everyone's all in on Patrick Mahomes going, he's the greatest quarterback in the league. And I'm not arguing that. I just think the Eagles are a team and there's some big question marks with that Chiefs offense.
Can I respond? I have a world of responses.
Good.
And nothing that Perrault said there is wrong, really. But I still have a different perspective on this in terms of the strength of that Eagles defense. Like, it's very good, but they did get a lot of sacks against really subpar opponents. And to Perrault's point, yes, when a good team or a great team is playing a mediocre team, as long as they are crushing them, and we saw the Eagles do that, as long as they are crushing them, then you don't hold their strength of schedule against them. So I don't hold the strength of schedule against the Eagles. But man, I think it is wrong to say that the injuries that might or might not exist on the Chiefs offense are really going to be that detrimental. They're without McCole Hardman, but they've been without him for half of the year at this point. Like, Juju Smith-Schuster practiced in full
point either. I wouldn't call him an integral part of the Chiefs offense at any given time.
No.
Yeah. Mahomes, he's dealing with some injury, but he's practiced in full for the past 3 weeks. I think he's healthier than Jalen Hurts is. Hurts has looked pretty bad passing the ball with the shoulder injury since he returned. He's not as efficient passing down the field, and he's not throwing as frequently down the field, which means I don't think that offense is going to be able to do the full range of things that we could see from them earlier in the year. And the Chiefs defense, they were number 2 in the league in sacks, 55 sacks. Sure, the Eagles had 70, but the Chiefs can get after the quarterback too. And it's easy to say that the Eagles have the best offensive line in the league. They probably do, but they are really good run blocking. They are not as good pass blocking. And Jalen Hurts he was number 8 in number of sacks per game this year. And that's despite the fact that he was in one of the most run-heavy offenses in the league. If Jalen Hurts is put in a position where he needs to drop back more and throw the ball, he's probably going to hold on to the ball a little bit too long. And I could see the Chiefs coming after him and getting some sacks. And it's not as if the Chiefs offensive line is bad. Like, they have all of their starters. 2 of those guys, especially in the middle, were second team All-Pro. Mahomes takes as few sacks as almost any other quarterback in the league. I don't know, man. Like, I think thinking about the strength that the Eagles have in the trenches, I think that strength is being overemphasized by sports bettors. I don't think it's as big of an edge as a lot of other people think. The Eagles have an edge, but I don't think it's a massive edge.
Yeah, 4 players with 11 sacks or more on that Eagles defensive line. We've never seen that before. That's never happened before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not one or 2 guys. It's not one guy you're going to stop. It's the whole breadth of that defensive line, and their secondary is really good. Tony's nicked up. Kelce, look, he is fine, but what was that back injury that popped up? And all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute. No one talked all week. I was like, why isn't no one not talking about Kelce potentially having an issue with his back? I was like, he's fine. That popped up. And then we all assume that this injury to Mahomes is fine. We did a deep dive with Philly people about the injury to Hurts. To a man, he's fine. This is an overblown thing. Talk about overblown injuries. Everyone's saying that Hurts is nicked up. He just played poorly. He just missed open receivers. He was up 31-7. He didn't have to hit a wide open receiver. The game was over. So he wasn't as sharp as he needed to be. He'll need to be sharp today. But I don't think either quarterback has a major issue with injuries today, at least going into the game.
All right, I want to ask this question because you talked about, obviously both end of the spectrum here. I want to talk about this because this seems like a weakness of the Eagles, the strength and the go-to for the Kansas City Chiefs. Perrault, I had Warren Sharp on TV with me this morning, and he was talking quite a bit about where the Eagles struggle, and the Eagles struggling over the middle.
He said the same thing to me. This is
a fascinating stat, though. But let's
Sharp.
Hold on. Let's keep this in mind. that the go-to guy is Travis Kelce.
Yep.
He's a matchup disaster because you can't put a corner on him.
They're the worst defense from 0 to 9 yards out.
Well, they are, but look, I don't want to get so hyper focused on the minute details of that. I'm talking about football here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm talking about just plain old football. At the end of the day, we knew the linebacking core for the Eagles was a problem going into the draft last year. We understood that the defensive front made improvements. Certainly, they went out there and brought in Joseph. They did what they had to do. The corners are very good. Where the Chiefs like to live is in the middle there. Mm-hmm. And that's where they lived ever since Tyreek Hill's gone too. That being said, is that a problem that the Eagles can overcome? That's my only frame of the question. It's not whether or not, we all know this exists. It's whether or not can the Eagles do enough to at least slow down Kelce to keep this in their court.
No, I think Kelsey's going to have a decent game today. And I think they're probably going to have to live with that. And say Kelsey gets his and everybody else just kind of take away everybody else. But I mean, I pushed back on Warren Sharp when he was on our show and on my other show from Arizona. He was like, 0 to 9 yards. I'm like, if you know that, don't the Eagles know that? Like, don't they spend 2
knowing
weeks
it and being able to stop
that?
it too, having the personnel to stop something, at this point in the season where we are, it's the last game. You can know everything you want. You know your weaknesses too. And it's one thing to be creative. It's another thing to have the personnel in order to do it. That's my question, especially when you look at what Vegas's number is for Travis Kelce, which is pretty high in terms of receiving yards. I mean, those numbers are not tiny,
Yeah, I think if you're looking at Kelce today, you got to bet the under. I mean, if you haven't bet anything with Kelce yet, receptions, yardage, touchdown, anything else, I mean, we can get into this as we go through the show, but like, if you're betting overs today, I can't strongly recommend against it more. Like, you need to bet the number matters. So what number you're getting matters. And today, under Kelce, under 81, I saw 81 on a book today. Like, I would look strongly at the under for these numbers because they're so juiced up from the public betting them and even pros betting them, driving the market.
All right, well, let's get to some of these best bets here. We're going to go back and forth. We'll start with Freedman. Before we get that, Addison has a question. Most obscure prop that you think has a good chance of hitting? Perrault, is there one off the top of your head that you got lined up?
The most obscure? Yikes.
Yeah. I mean, there's some weird stuff when you can overlap with NBA and the number of points for this and the number of points by the Chiefs. I mean, it's crazy stuff out there. Freedman, did you have any obscure weird ones that you like? The Gatorade I liked got pulled, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, one that stands out to me is like looking at like punting props. I mean, like if you're looking at that, you're pretty in the weeds there.
Yeah. You're a 12-step program away, basically. I think.
Yeah.
That's
I think that actually not to hit the upright, a ball not to hit the upright on a kick, it's like minus 600. The pros say it should be like minus 1,200.
Yeah.
So like if you're interested in laying, insane juice, a kick not to hit an upright or crossbar would be a decent bet.
Yeah, I like that one. On the punting side, the first punt for the Chiefs to go over 45.5 yards. And that doesn't count like return yardage or anything like that.
Right.
Tommy Townsend, all-pro, first team all-pro punter, number 2 in the league in length of punts during the season. And my thinking is that when the Chiefs are near midfield, they're going to be a little more aggressive than usual in going forward on 4th down. So if they're bringing Townsend out to punt, I think it's going to be a situation where there's a long field and he's just going to be in a position to bomb it instead of trying to pin the Eagles, inside the 5-yard line or something like that. So I think that is a pretty decent punt given the leg that he has and the way I think the Chiefs will be playing around midfield.
Jim Sandus had a fun one too. It was the prop for somebody to have a passing completion, a reception, and a rushing attempt at plus 900. He called it the Kadarius Toney prop there, which is plus 900. I mean, Andy Reid does like a gimmick here and there.
Well, there's that
Toney throw the football too.
8-point touchdown, the 8-point drive too, to have a touchdown catch and the 2-point conversion. That I think is like 15-1.
There you go, Addison. Some fun things there. Andrew Erickson Truther always joins the show here. We always like having you on here. Joe Pisapia over 3.5 pigs in a blanket. I think that number's wrong. You got to set it at least 5.5. All right, let's get to some of the fun bets that the gentlemen have laid out here. Friedman, we'll start with you. The Chiefs at plus 1.5. We've already kind of touched on that, but give you your final salvo before we move on here, especially because Chris spent all this time at Arts and Crafts making the graphics. We want to use that. There it is. Look at this.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is 7-1-1 against the spread for his career as an underdog. Like, I rest my case. Like, the dude should almost never be an underdog unless he's on the road playing against Josh Allen or something like that. If this game were in Philadelphia, absolutely, the Eagles should be favored. But on a neutral field, I just have to go with Mahomes. Look at it this way. Entering the playoffs, almost everyone would have had the Chiefs power rated ahead of the Eagles. And I don't know if we saw enough in the playoffs to flip the way in which we should have these two teams power rated because of Mahomes' injury in the playoffs and because of the strength of schedule that the Eagles played during the playoffs. I don't think anyone's opinions should be different on these two teams versus where they were entering the playoffs.
All right, Perrault, let's go for you on your first side lean here of Super Bowl Sunday.
I got a little caveat as how I'm betting this. So before the playoffs began, I took the Eagles over Chiefs at 14.5 to 1. Before the AFC and NFC championship games, I took the Chiefs over the Eagles at 5-1. So I'm sitting in both for a half a unit. So I'm sitting at like 7 units if the Eagles win. I'm sitting at like 2.5 if the Chiefs wind up winning this game. So I'm going to try to like build myself a little middle. So this is where I'm same game teasing this. So I got 1.5. I'm teasing it up to 7.5. I'm taking the total from 51 and going up to 57 and taking the under. I like the under in this game at 51. I like it even better at 57, obviously, crossing key numbers of 51 and 54, and then taking the Chiefs from plus 1.5, crossing 3, crossing 7, and getting 7.5. So I'm going for a tight, low-scoring game, and either team winning is good news for me.
All right, so there you go. Let's go back over to you with this total here. Freedman, when you're looking at this, again, the number fluctuating in different spots, you can, again, speak to it if you prefer a certain one or the other, whether it's the 51 or the 50.5. Do you have a preference here?
So I'm pretty split. I'm not going to be betting on this either way. I have a projection, like my sort of official projection is to the over, but I can see how the under plays out here, and that you've got two quarterbacks, even if they're not like injured, they're not fully healthy. And you've got two defenses that are pretty good, among the best in the league, coming after the quarterback. And so, yeah, I could see a situation similar to the Patriots-Rams Super Bowl 4 years ago, where everyone is thinking that it could be a high-scoring game, and it just turns into a slugfest. I could see something like that a little bit, where we've got great offenses, and yet it's a lower scoring game than people are anticipating. So for me, like, I'm just kind of going to stay away a little bit, but my official projection is to the over. So if I had to bet it, I would be betting over, but again, I'm not betting it.
I think so much of it has to do with, that first quarter. I talked about that all week, which is, teams typically after 2-week layoffs come out a little flat. There's so much pomp and circumstance before the game. They're standing there for 3 songs before we even get to the warm up for the next thing. Like there's a lot there. It's very rare we see a team, Perrault, just kind of drive down the field right away and just look like $1 million. Typically the first quarter is kind of, it's like two heavyweights just kind of feeling each other out a little bit, throwing jabs. Do you feel the same way? And does that portend to an under as well, in your opinion?
It does, but it also, for me, the Eagles have got to come out fast. I mean, this is the number one scoring offense in the first half, number one ATS offense in the first half. They aren't great in the second half. Like, you do not want this game coming down to a Patrick Mahomes drive. Like, if this game is like 23-23 with 2.5 to play, that's a bad spot for the Eagles to be in. So to me, the Eagles have got to get out to a lead. They've got to have a lead after the first quarter, lead after the second quarter. So a lot of people like the over in the first half. I'm not so sure. 24.5. Once you cross 24, I lean towards the under in the first half and the under for the game. But the Eagles have got to have a lead. Like, Eagles in the first half, I think if you're believing the Eagles are going to win the game, I think Eagles first half is a bet you have to correlate.
It's funny because I like the Chiefs side of this one, but to the point of both you guys are making, but both of these teams are, again, the lines are so close. Everything is so close. Everything's very spot on here. 2 number 1 seeds. We don't get this all the time. Last time we got it was last time the Eagles were in the Super Bowl with the Patriots. What is there to, let's say the Eagles do drive down the field, they do come out fast and loose, and they put a 7. Is that the perfect time, Freedman, in your opinion, if you like the Chiefs to pounce? Because I feel like that's what I'm waiting for. As somebody who wants to bet the Chiefs, I don't see any value on it right now. The even money, okay. But if the Eagles open up fast and they fall down by 7 early, is that a great time to in-game live bet the Chiefs, in your opinion?
Yeah, I could see it. In theory, the models would tell you that the odds for the Chiefs winning the game have changed, because in reality, the Eagles have been spotted 7 points. But I don't think it would surprise anyone if the Eagles were at some point leading in this game by 7 or 10 points. And the Chiefs have the type of temperament where they can fall behind early. Like, we've seen them do this in the playoffs multiple times, where they fall behind early and then they steam back in the second quarter, third quarter, and end up winning convincingly. So the Chiefs are one of the few teams in the league that do have the ability to come back from a pretty large deficit. So yeah, if you like the Chiefs, I don't think the Eagles scoring first in this game should dissuade you from your position.
Okay, let's talk a little MVP here. And Freedman, you've got one here that,
Yes.
look, I have a lot of respect for you, especially before this show started. After this, I don't know. Harrison Butker you've got. And I know
Yes.
this is like a fun wager, but
Yes.
explain to me the logic of putting money at a kicker even on this number.
It's a fun wager, but it is serious for me. Harrison Butker, 350 to 1 to win Super Bowl MVP. This is at PointsBet. I would feel comfortable betting it to 250 to 1, which is a number.
How about 1,000? How about
where
1,000 to 1? Let's go to 1,000 to 1.
Yeah. Look, I mean, okay, here's the thesis. It's a galaxy brain type of idea. Admittedly, no question about that. But we do have two quarterbacks who are dealing with injuries, and we do have two good defenses. And so if this is an under game, and I think the odds of it being under are maybe greater than people appreciate, or a lot of people appreciate. If this is an under game and Butker has, like 3 or 4 field goals, like I think it's within the realm for him to get 3. Andy Reid has the faith in Butker to let him try 50+ yard field goals. So if Butker has multiple field goals in this game, let's say he has 3, 4 field goals, a couple of them are long, and this is a tight scoring game, and one of them is the game winner. And if it's that type of game, that means that Mahomes probably isn't really all that strong of an MVP candidate. And the Chiefs don't have the type of defense outside of Chris Jones. They don't have the kind of defense where you could really see one guy standing out and just like easily claiming the case for MVP on the defensive side of ball. Whereas the Eagles, they have a ton of those guys who could like really emerge as strong MVP candidates if they just shut it down. The Chiefs don't have that one guy outside of Chris Jones. And so if this is a lower scoring game, no one really distinguishes himself. The Chiefs win and Harrison Butker has 3 or 4 field goals and one of them is a game winner. Like he's going to be live. And that scenario playing out, like people might not think that is that realistic of a scenario, but like we see scenarios like that like with some frequency in the NFL where it's just like a relatively boring game and the kicker on the winning team gets 3 or 4 field goals. So we could see that in the Super Bowl. And I would say, yeah, like the odds of this happening, the realistic odds of this happening, I think are around like 0.5%. Like very, very low, ridiculously low. This is almost certain not to happen. But at 350 to 1, the implied number there is saying that this is like 0.2% chance of happening. And I think that's a little too low.
There you go. Put $1 on it, everybody. And you get the 350. That's what we want to do.
Put $10 on it. Put $10 on it. If you're doing it at 350, don't put just $1.
That's coffee and a scone, $10. I don't know if I want to go that much on a kicker. But Perrault, we're looking at MVPs. Clearly, it's the quarterbacks, both around 130. Then you jump to Kelsey. There's the next one on the board. Most places at plus 1,400 around there. I don't want to ask you about Kelsey again because I don't want to get yelled at because I know you're not really feeling that. So is there somebody else?
I'm feeling Kelsey. I know.
You feel okay? All right.
Kelsey. No.
I mean, I see Kelsey. There's other guys too. We talk about, guys on the Eagles defense, guys like CJ Gardner-Johnson, if he could maybe potentially come up with 2 picks. Is there somebody outside the box, or is this, again, us chasing our tail here?
Yes. If you bet the Chiefs, bet Mahomes. It's that easy. If you have money on the Chiefs to win this game, you're leaving money on the table by not betting Mahomes. He's winning the MVP. He's going to. The Eagles are a little bit different, but I still think Jalen Hurts is the better bet. There could be a running back, maybe. A defensive player, maybe, but those are such long shots. If Jalen Hurts is running for 80 yards and has 2 touchdown tosses and 300 yards passing, he's winning the MVP. So I think it's a 2-horse race. You can bet them both, and I think you'll wind up, because they're both plus money, you'll wind up making money by betting them both. So I think the long shot stuff is fun, but it's far more realistic that the quarterbacks are winning this award.
All right, let's go to the next here. Our favorite player prop. Why don't we start with you, Freedman, on this one here? Give me your favorite player prop. What do you have?
Okay, this one has moved a little bit, but I still see some value on it. Justin Watson under 1.5 receptions. And I bet this at BetMGM when it was minus 120. But, I still see value in this all the way up to like minus 170, minus 190. Justin Watson is like an okay player. but not since week 12 has he had more than 1.5 receptions in a game. And since week 12, only once has he had more than 2 targets in a game.
Mhm.
And, with this being the most important game of the year, with Travis Kelce being healthy, with Juju being out there, with Kadarius Toney at least starting the game. Who knows if he actually finishes the game, but with all of the wide receivers being out there, with the exception of Mecole Hardman, there isn't much of a reason for Watson to be targeted in this game. He will be out there running routes, playing snaps, because that's what he does. Like, they use him in that way because he's a decent field stretcher and he's a pretty good run blocker as a wide receiver, but they're not targeting him on a consistent basis. So under 1.5 receptions for him. Again, I had this at minus 120. The line has moved since then, but I still think there's value, even I'd say all the way up to minus 190. I have this projected at 1, but even there, I think that's a little bit optimistic.
All right, let's jump over to you here, Perrault. What are your favorite player prop on the board right now? What is it?
So Travis Kelce, we talked about him a lot today, but Travis Kelce, I think I got it at 78, and I bet the over at minus 115 for his yardage. The reception prop is at 7.5, which is high. He could get 8, 9, but going into last week, he had 95 yards or more in 7 straight postseason games. He got over on his prop by a half a yard last week. So, like, this number for him is on. The books are very sharp with this. That's why 81, I think you play the under. I think if you see it go cross 80, I think you can take the under on this. I have over 78.5. I think Kelce's going to be he's the binky. He's the security blanket, but I think he's going to be the guy that Mahomes looks to when the pressure comes and he's got 3 guys in his face. He's going to turn and try to fire and get it to Kelce. I do think he scores, but I'm not positive enough to bet it that he scores. But the reception prop has gotten way too out of whack. I mean, I don't know. 8 is a lot in a football game. He could win the MVP if he has 8 or 9 catches.
Just to Perrault's point there on Kelce scoring, I do like Kelce to score in this game, and I have bet it. Like the Kelce anytime touchdown in his since 2018, that postseason. So in the Mahomes era, Kelce has scored 14 touchdowns in 13 games. 13 postseason games, just absolute beast in the postseason. So that's not to say like he's guaranteed locked in. But yeah, I am still betting this at minus money, as long as it's not going out to like minus 150 or something. I think minus 125 is fine. I got it minus 114 at Caesars. I actually do like Kelce to score a touchdown.
All right, before we get to the favorite game props of the Mats today, I want to remind everybody too, if you want to track all your wagers in one place, the best place to do it is BettingPros Pick Tracker at bettingpros.com/pick-tracking. And it syncs up with your sportsbook to tally which picks hit and which miss. And it gives you a live look at what the public is doing, so you can use real-time tracking to determine which plays to make and which ones to fade. So go to the leaderboard and quickly become a sharp by using the free advice we give you at bettingpros.com/pick-tracking. So check that out. Track your picks. And don't forget, everybody, subscribe to Betting Pros YouTube channel right now. If you're watching the show, make a comment below and you could be a premium upgrade person right here at bettingpros.com. All right, Freedman, let's go over to the next one here. Let's talk about the game prop for you. What is your favorite on the line on Sunday?
Yeah, I like the Chiefs over 2.5 sacks at plus 100 at DraftKings. Jalen Hurts takes a lot of sacks, like too many sacks. In the regular season, he was number 8 among all quarterbacks with 2.5 sacks per game. Again, despite having only 30.7 pass attempts per game. And this is a situation where because of the strength of schedule that the Eagles had, they didn't have to have Jalen Hurts drop back as often. But in a tighter Super Bowl, we might see more Jalen Hurts dropbacks. And so I think the opportunity for more sacks. And the Chiefs, they were number 2 in the league, 55 sacks on the season for their defense. With Chris Jones, one of the best interior pass rushers that they have, 15.5 sacks on the season for him. And then they have a pretty steady rotation of edge rushers. Frank Clark, George Karlaftis, Carlos Dunlap, even Michael Dana. Those guys combined for 20 sacks on the year. And so with their 4 rushers just on the defensive line without needing to bring any other pressure, they do a pretty good job of getting after the quarterback. And Jalen Hurts, He's evolved so much since he entered the league, and so much even more if you're looking at where he was entering college. But he still takes too many sacks, and I think this is a situation where the Chiefs are able to bring a little more pressure than they normally do. They're like middle of the road in blitzing, right? I think they were number 14 in blitz rate. And with that, they were still top 8 in a number of pressure quarter categories, number 8 in hurry rate, number 5 in pressure rate, number 3 in adjusted sack rate. And so if with that Steve Spagnuolo defense, they bring the pressure with blitzes just a little bit more, then they could really get after Jalen Hurts. And I think that could help push this to the over of 2.5.
All right, Matt Perrault, you're up next. What's your favorite game prop for Super Bowl Sunday?
Yeah, I think both kickers are going to be involved in this, and it's kind of going back to the MVP talk with Harrison Buckner, but over 47.5 yards for the longest field goal. If you take a look at both these coaches are cool with letting these kickers trot out there and boot long ones.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen a 54-yarder this year against the Giants from Jake Elliott, a 56-yarder against the Saints, a 54-yarder against the Packers for Jake Elliott. Buckner's hit a 50-yarder against the Jags, hit a 52-yarder against the Chargers, 62-yarder against the Bills. Both these guys have got killer legs, so maybe it's end of the half. Maybe it's end of the game, but I think both kickers will be at least attempting a 50-yarder, and they're both very accurate. So I think they could kick that and knock that down. So the number, be careful. I wouldn't go up to 50, but anything under 50, I think is a decent bet for the longest field goal.
I like that. And just to second that, I think that, to Perrault's point, it's not just that the coaches have faith in their kickers. I think they also would rather have their kickers attempt long field goals than have their punters attempt short punts and try to play the field position game of getting the ball within the 5-yard line and backing the team up to the goal line. I can see them in a situation where it's a little bit borderline. I think they'll be like, all right, let's just let Bucker go out there and try a 60-yarder and see what happens.
Yeah, it's also one of the things looking at the DFS slate too that I keep telling people, you might want to get a kicker in there, guys. You might want to, nobody likes, it's not the sexy pick, like to go put kickers in, but honestly, they're going to get points and they're cheap, so you might want to think about it. Go ahead,
And
Matt.
it's a correlation to the under, right? So if you think this game skews to the under, we're skewing to field goals. If it's a field goal battle, the coaches are far more likely to say, look, get points. Kick a 50-yarder. We need points. We can't afford to give the ball up. We got to score.
Gotcha. All right, let's go over to the next tier, which is a favorite overall bet here from Matthew Freedman. Freedman, what do you have?
So, Perrault said earlier that when he was on Radio Row talking with the beat reporters for the Eagles, there wasn't much, if any, trepidation about Jalen Hurts' injury. And maybe it's the case that he's not dealing with a shoulder injury. It would not surprise me if after the season, it comes out Jalen Hurts really dealing with a serious shoulder injury, but I don't know. I'm taking under 37.5 yards for his longest reception since he returned from the shoulder injury, whether it's he's actually still dealing with an injury or whatever it is. He has not been airing the ball nearly as deep. And when he's been throwing deep, he hasn't been nearly as efficient. Like, just look at the conference championship game. His longest completion was a 29-yard incompletion. They're just not throwing it nearly as aggressively down the field. And so if they're not giving him the opportunity to pick up chunk yards through the air, that means in my thinking of this, the only way that Hurts is going to get over 37.5 yards on a completion is if it's, like a 7-yard slant to AJ Brown, who just does the rest of the work.
Right?
Yeah. But that's not an extremely likely thing to happen. So, if you're of the opinion like I am that Hurts is not his full passing self, then I think there's value here at under 37.5 yards passing for his longest completion.
All right, Perrault, go ahead.
He's not wrong, though. I mean, when the injury first happened, here in Vegas, we were hearing he was done for the year.
Yeah.
Like there were real rumors that he had something broken in the shoulder. Like it was a serious, needed surgery, and then it kind of all quieted down. So if that happens, I'm not going to be stunned. What Matthew just said, I'm not stunned if we're coming out saying he needs reconstructive surgery of some sort on the throwing shoulder.
Yeah, it would be so stunning for teams to lie to us.
I know, right?
Especially this time of year. I don't know if I want to, accept anything nowadays. Yeah, It's just really disheartening. All right, let's go to your favorite overall bets here, Perrault, and we'll wrap things up.
an automatic fire. I bet that's every year in the Super Bowl. It's the shortest touchdown to be under 1.5 yards. It's juicy right now. I mean, I got it at 160, and that's pretty. I don't lay that type of juice normally, but it's just something I bet every year. It always, there's just so many scenarios for a 1 yard touchdown to occur. The Bush push, now it's just like it's a strategy. Like it's a play call now where you just get behind somebody and push them into the end zone. So that happens consistently. And then all flags in the end zone, the ball gets placed on the 1 yard line. There's just so many scenarios to have a 1 yard touchdown run that shortest touchdown under 1.5 yards is a very consistent play.
Yeah, I learned I just got a PS5 for Christmas for my daughter with Madden, and I realized you could do that every single time with the QB sneak. You go, it's an automatic there. So that's another automatic there for you. Anything else, Perrault, from you that's really got your eye on that you think is really something other people should have their money on?
Yeah, so a plus money bet that I would make is to have more than 2 players throwing a pass in this game. So it's 2.5. So 3 players, quarterback, obviously. So you need one other player from either team. Both these coaches are, they love to throw trick plays in there, and it's plus money. I mean, I got it at plus 115. I got in late. Some people got it at plus 140, plus 150. I think there's a really good chance we're seeing a trick play with somebody, a Philly special 2.0, something like that happening where Kelsey throws the ball or somebody throws a pass other than the 2 quarterbacks.
All right. We have one more question here from Chef Benny, also a friend of the show. Any money on Rihanna's first song? He took Run This Town to be the first one. I like Run This Town is a good one. Don't Stop the Music would be my guess. Friedman, you know who Rihanna is, right? I just want to make sure.
I know who Rihanna is because she's playing the halftime show of the Super Bowl. So
Perrault, you were like, oh, it's a burn. No, it's not. I'm just checking to make sure he's with us. That's all.
No, I know who she is, but I do not know enough of who she is to know like anything about like what she's likely to play at the halftime show. I let the true degenerates dig into that information, and then hopefully people let me know.
Well, here's one
Jay-Z
thing.
makes an appearance, Perrault. That's what I'm hoping for. Fingers crossed.
I don't know. So Rihanna admitted this is kind of funny. So I was in the media room. I would never have watched this press conference otherwise, but I was in the media room. I was getting drinks and the press conference was on. And Rihanna admitted that she had studied Beyonce, that she had watched Beyonce's halftime show and studied it. So if you're going to look at what she did, what Beyonce did, there may be some crossover. Beyonce tried to bring in different, I think she had Coldplay who played a song with her. Yeah, so we could see some like non-traditional urban music. Some, they got to deal with the 60-year-old white guy. So you got to try to, reach out to him.
and Friedman.
So you gotta go get
I'm
him
going to put in
attention.
I'm going to put in some tape study once again of the Shakira performance. I think that's the one I always keep coming back to, and I'll put some serious film study into that. Hopefully you guys all put some serious study into what we're talking about. If you want more, make sure you go to bettingpros.com. Just download the app. It's an easy way to see the line movement, what's going on. Make sure you leave a comment below and share, of course, this very wonderful stream that we just did for you again over at bettingpros.com, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/bettingpros. Subscribe to the channel because we got a lot of great stuff coming up. March Madness around the corner, baseball, more football talk, everything you could possibly fathom, NFL draft. It's all going to be here. I want to thank everyone named Matt and also our producer, Chris, for hanging out with us today. And he's got my shirt on, the Italian Stallion. That's me, supporting me, I believe. But gentlemen, great stuff as always. Check out the Daily Juice with Matt Perrault every single day. He'll be awake tomorrow at some point talking. He won't know what day it is, but he will be talking about your next wager. So subscribe wherever you get your pods to Betting Pros as well. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Matt and Chris, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Enjoy the Super Bowl.